Thanks. Apropos of nothing, what's the secretary's IQ?
It's high.
Is
Anybody
it?
who can put things together, you know, and
But
is an engineer.
you don't have a.
It's high.
You
I don't
have
have
an
it, no.
exact score.
I'm
What
afraid
he,
I don't.
what he might have gotten on his SATs, anything like that? No.
Do you have a real question?
Yeah, Turkey.
Okay.
The situation between you and the Turks does not seem to be particularly happy at the moment. It appears to be, you know, instead of de-escalating as you probably wanted it to,
Right.
it has escalated instead. What's the latest and on that? And is there any sign that tensions can calm down?
Well, we certainly hope so. We were very disappointed by the Turkish government's arrest of two of our locally employed staff. As many of you know, the State Department relies significantly on locally employed staff all around the world. We would not be able to do our jobs at the State Department without all these folks who are citizens of other countries who assist the State Department in their activities. Turkey had arrested this year two of our locally employed staff in different locations, and then had called in a third staff member just over the weekend of the United States. So we can confirm over the weekend that a third embassy staff member was summoned by Turkish authorities. That staff member, though, has not been formally arrested. These actions are deeply disturbing to us. Ambassador John Bass, who's our U.S. ambassador to Turkey, addressed this extensively over the weekend. We remain very concerned with the situation over there. And just for some folks who perhaps haven't followed this as closely, I want to read you a little bit of what Ambassador Bass had to say about that over the weekend. He said, last week, for the second time this year, a Turkish staff member of our diplomatic mission was arrested by Turkish authorities. Despite our best efforts to learn the reasons for this arrest, we've been unable to determine why it occurred or what, if any, evidence exists against the employee. The employee works in an office devoted to strengthening law enforcement cooperation with Turkish authorities and ensuring the security of Americans and Turkish citizens. He went on to say, let me be clear, strengthening law enforcement cooperation between the United States and Turkey was the employee's job. The arrest has raised questions about whether the goal of some officials is to disrupt the longstanding cooperation between Turkey and the United States. And that remains our, one of our chief questions for the Turkish government. What's going on here? What are they trying to accomplish by this behavior toward our locally employed staff? Our locally employed staff, in this case in Turkey, worked on law enforcement cooperation issues. We know that the Turkish government has basically rounded up about 200,000 people, accusing them of not only fomenting a coup, but also supporting the Gulen movement. Our locally employed staff, part of their jobs, at least here, these three individuals, was working with law enforcement. And as a part of their job, that would require them to be on the phone with law enforcement officials and other investigators. And when the government of Turkey starts to question our locally employed staff's ability to do that, we have some very serious questions about it.
Well, what do you think of their literally word for word response to the initial announcement from the embassy, apart from the kind of snark of it? Do you think that they have reason to doubt the U.S. government's commitment for the safety and security of their properties here?
I'm sorry, I'm not following that part.
Well, so you guys, in your statement, said that you had questions about the commitment of Turkey to protect your diplomatic facilities and employees. They turned around and said
we have not seen any evidence that indicates that our staff members were involved of what the government is accusing them of doing. I just want to make that clear.
Right, I understood. But they turned around, they took that statement, interchanged the U.S. for Turkey for the U.S. and said the exact same thing about you guys here, and that they questioned the commitment of the U.S. to protect their facility. Yeah. Do you think that there's any merit to that allegation?
I don't think so. I think their facilities are probably quite safe, as are their people here.
Can I,
Highly
a couple more